Great. Okay, we're having trouble on the Facebook as usual. I don't know why that thing's always a problem. I'll give it a couple minutes. But for you two people, hi, welcome back. I'm Christopher.
I'm Angela.
And we are the Dinosaur Island. And today we are going to be discussing the magnificent, amazing world of eggs and egg production. It looks like Facebook is not working. I'm going to have to just cancel that out. Okay? Too bad. Sorry, Facebook. Whoops. So normally we broadcast on Facebook and YouTube at the same time, but Facebook's down, so we're here today. All right, guys, welcome. I'll give a minute or two. Maybe some folks will show up to this live. If you come here after it's aired, drop a question down below, and I'll be sure to get to your question. I sure do love those queries, chicken, quail, or animal related. Why would you ask us? Who the hell are you people? Right? Well, what do we do?
We focus on self-sufficiency and homesteading type lifestyle with the goal of learning skills and bettering our quality of life. We encourage other people to do this as well. And we raise different types of animals for a smaller type of space to achieve those things.
Self-sufficiency. Everybody's into self-sufficiency. When they saw the food was going up and prices are nuts, people want to start growing their own vegetables and meat and things. And so they decided, let's do a self-sufficiency deal. And that's what's been going on. So people want to learn. And we do that here. Our main focus, I guess we started with Cotornix quail, the jumbo quail, which are exceptional egg layers. If you guys are looking to lay or have eggs and you don't have space for chickens, the quail are probably the go-to critter.
Yeah, or it's an excellent
They're about
to
this,
add.
like this.
I wouldn't really say
I
that.
should have brought in a quail.
They're like the size of a grapefruit.
Yeah, they're about this big. They lay eggs about this big. I will show you. Ugh.
Yeah, we have some eggs this time.
So the quail is not a full-size bird like a chicken. It's a smaller animal, so they lay smaller eggs. So about this egg. Why would you use quail when they're laying small eggs? Because they don't take up any space. The quail really don't take up much space besides a hutch. And it's a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 quail eggs is equivalent to 1 large chicken egg. So it is a magnificent alternative for people looking for eggs. Speaking of eggs, that's what we're going to be talking about. That is what we will be discussing tonight. This will be a little more brief because it's more about, I guess, some interesting facts about egg production, development, composition, things you may not know, but you might want to know. And maybe you're bored and you're sitting in your house with nothing to do and you're cleaning and you want to listen to an egg talk. Well, here we go. What do we know about eggs? Well, why do I like eggs? Eggs, I eat tons of eggs. You know what? I eat tons of eggs. I'd say 10 eggs a day, maybe.
At least.
Is that right?
Yeah.
No, I don't have any cholesterol problems.
No, that's a lot of egg whites. He doesn't.
So I'll eat like 5 or 6 egg, like yolks equivalent, and then 10 more egg whites. It's an exceptionally good quality protein, very bioavailable. The body digests it very efficiently. Okay, it's probably the best animal protein you can eat. It's a complete protein as well, meaning that all of the essential amino acids are present in that egg yolk, in that egg white, the albumin. I said yolk.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very tasty, healthy food. Unfortunately, they've gotten rather expensive as of this recording, which is December of 2024 during drone season. The eggs have gone up to quite a bit of money.
Yeah, they have.
I got a 60-pack of eggs I saw for $20. That's nuts.
Wow.
Never that much. Okay. So what about eggs? Is there anything else you'd like to say? No. Anyway, real briefly, new people, if you're here, hit the sub button. Please join us in the wonderful world of talking about animals and quail. Again, this is an interactive forum, people. Interactive. You drop questions in, ask your questions, tell me your horrible or good stories of animals, like, we always hear about predators eating animals. That's a horrible one. We don't like that one. Or good stuff, like, hey, my chickens are reproducing. But mostly, we want to encourage you guys, and this is a good forum for learning. Owning a homestead or doing your prepper thing, whatever you're doing, requires self-discipline, okay? And if you don't have somebody lording over you and holding you accountable, you got to do it yourself. So when you're holding yourself accountable, right, to achieve your goals, it's difficult. So it's a difficult lifestyle, I think, in that sense. That's the main difficulty, not the work. Work is work. Wherever you're going and you have to work, I'm sure if you're good at it, you can complain about whatever you're doing. So I don't think the work is the issue in the homestead, but rather the self-discipline and holding oneself accountable to achieve and accomplish the things they're setting out to do, because nobody's stepping on you, nobody's forcing you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And then staying focused on goals and like the purpose of why you're doing what you're doing.
Good example. As much as I love talking to you fabulous people, sometimes I don't feel like coming on here. But I obligate myself because it's something that I have to hold myself accountable to do, is talk when I'm exhausted about different subjects, right?
Yeah, but you do like teaching, so.
Why do you like teaching?
Yeah.
Life is a more exquisite and pleasurable experience with the more knowledge we gain, because we have a more intimate understanding of the things we enjoy, and the more intimate we understand something, the greater depth of which we should appreciate it. Is that too wordy? I think that gets to the point. The more you understand something, the greater you appreciate it and you value it. It becomes more of a part of you, an extension of self. So that's why I highly encourage education. Not that you have to be a sophisticated physicist or brainiac, but just gain knowledge to appreciate things around you. Like you go for a walk. Oh, wow, look at this. What kind of moss is this? And then you...
Yeah, gaining understanding, it also helps boost confidence and just kind of helps, just like, you know, understanding really around anything that you do or interact with, it really helps settle people, you know.
All right, so let's segue into the egg talk.
Yeah.
So we're going to be discussing eggs, egg formation, and some cool and interesting facts about eggs, and chicken, poultry, ducks. So like all these animals, the egg production is extremely similar. Okay. So I think one of the things I wanted to address is the calcium. When people talk about eggs, you're thinking of calcium. I wanted to veer away. I'm not strictly discussing calcium. You know the egg is made of calcium. You can crush calcium up.
The eggshell.
The eggshell. Throw it into the yard. Where's this
The
garden.
No, I just pictured somebody taking an egg and throwing it.
I throw my eggshells in the garden. I'll crush them up and throw them in the garden, and it's good for the garden. So, but there's some other key issues about the egg production that we should be aware of. If you're a first-time chickener or new to chickening, this is actually going to be some useful information. The videos we do here, these live videos, they're not like TikTok videos where it's 3-second snippets. So if you have a low attention span, you know, I'm going to be talking. I don't know what to tell you. It's not cut. We're live. So here we go. My objective is to teach you guys factors beyond calcium that contribute to strong and healthy eggshells. Whilst calcium is essential, eggshell quality depends upon a combination of nutrients, environmental factors, and proper care. So the role of calcium in the eggshell formation. So when we're talking about calcium, we're assuming, what do you call it, blood serum or dietary calcium, right? Our chickens are getting our dietary calcium. We're munching it up. That's what the grit, I mean, not the grit, the calcium, what do you call it?
The oyster shells or limestone.
Shells and stone. So most of the time we're going to be supplementing calcium into our chicken's diet because they're not getting it out in the environment. We want to make sure their structure stays healthy, and of course they're producing healthy eggs, right? So before I get into the depth of this, some of the problems when they're not getting enough calcium, what's happening without enough calcium in the diet?
Yeah, you'll notice that the eggshells will become brittle, thin, and maybe even disappear altogether.
Shellless. Yeah, you may not even have shells on the eggs.
And some problems may arise where the hen could prolapse as she's laying an egg, like her muscles, her interior comes out, and that's, you know, quite painful. Also, if while she's in the process of laying an egg, if the shell is brittle, particularly brittle or shellless, there is a risk that it could burst in her while she's laying it, and that could cause internal infection, and that's very bad.
Not good. So
yeah, that's not necessarily a common thing. Those are just possibles.
Yeah, luckily, though, I mean, calcium. If you're feeding your chicken a layer feed, it's going to have calcium in it. They're going to be getting their calcium there. Most of those needs are going to be met. So the issues you're going to be finding with shellless eggs or egg problems or health problems resulting from calcium are derived from one of the other Co-occurring factors in the chicken's either diet or environment is going to be causing the issue with calcium absorption or mobilization in their bloodstream. Sorry, I talk fast. That's just what I do. Am I talking too quick?
I think it's
Okay. So what's cool about the calcium transport once it's in the bloodstream? So when the chicken's forming the egg, so the egg is formed in about 24 to 26 hours, okay, in your hen. They're going to produce, in the ovum, they're going to release a yolk, and it's going to go into, I don't get into all the different parts in the internals, but it's going to go into developing whether or not it gets fertilized. It's going to create the albumin, or the white, the protein-rich white, which is going around the yolk. And then after about 4 hours, it's going through this process. It transports to the egg duct, or the egg gland area, where the shell's starting to get created. And that process is the longer one. So that's going to be, 18, 20 hours where it's producing this shell with its calcium carbonate lattice, or the calcium lattice, calcium, which is going to be transported there. So it's a bit of a process, and it's taxing. That's an energy-intensive process for the chicken, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if they're not getting sufficient calories or
The nutrients.
in their diet, they're going to have difficulty doing that. All right, so where's the calcium coming from? This is interesting. This is what I found so cool. I didn't even know this. I sound like an idiot, but I didn't realize this with laying hens. So about 60 to 70% of their calcium is coming from the bloodstream, from their diet. So it's already present, it's gone through the gizzard, and it's in their bloodstream, absorbed in the intestines. 30% to 40% of the calcium in the shell is not coming from the bloodstream directly. It has to be mobilized off of their skeleton. That's right, yeah. So while they're not having access to food and their body's still needing calcium, and there's no calcium present or insufficient calcium in the blood, their body's going to suck it out of the bones. They're taking it from this medullary bone. Oh, I mispronounced it. In the pelvic region. It's a spongy bone, and it's made so they can extract and absorb calcium more efficiently. So while they're roosting at night, and they're beginning that egg production process, and they may not have access to calcium, they're going to be extracting it from the medullary bone. Question? Comment? Interesting? I thought that was really cool.
Oh, I just briefly, when you mentioned that the bone's spongy, like, he doesn't mean that it's soft or
No, it's
squishy.
not brittle. It's porous.
It's porous and like airy.
Yeah. So as long as the chicken's getting sufficient dietary calcium, the hen will be replacing calcium from the bone that it's extracting. So it's not compromising its skeletal integrity. It's just an interesting bioadaptive mechanism that some of these birds have, that they can lay their eggs and they can extract, because it's a very calcium intensive job to make an egg. So they can extract it from that storage area in the bone if it's not present in the blood while they're taking a chicken nap at night. So they're still producing that eggshell without compromising their health. So just like any other critter, bioadaptively, its objective is to stay alive. It's not going to be able to take care of its kids if it's dead. So it wants to maintain a healthy skeleton. So if it's not getting enough dietary calcium, what happens? You get these bad eggs. The eggs start not getting enough calcium, and the chicken starts not. Then if it's never getting calcium, yeah, you're going to compromise its skeleton. But the first thing it's going to do is compromise eggs. It doesn't need an egg to stay alive. It does need a skeleton to stay alive. Very interesting stuff. Okay? Have we had shellless eggs or any problems like that?
Not with our chickens. Occasionally with our quail, and we'll realize, oh, their calcium isn't what it needs to be, so then we increase it, and then problem solved.
And problem solved. I can't believe my Facebook one went off. All right, so I'm going to talk about one other thing, and then I'm going to pass it off to this nice lady, Angela. You can talk about protein and water and all that good stuff. I want to discuss a mineral, phosphorus. Phosphorus in the diet. So phosphorus is a diet, will be present in the animal's diet. Phosphorus is a mineral that's found very much in like fish meal and animal proteins. It'll be found in plant proteins as well, except phosphorus is bound to phytates, which is a compound in the plant, which makes it a little less bioavailable to break down. You need an enzyme to break down phytates, and the enzyme that breaks down phytates is phytase. I know you're excited by this. I'm fascinated. I love this stuff. I'm Professor Science. It's really kind of neat.
You do need a costume.
I needed my science costume. So phosphorus is present in all these different food compounds, but in the plant compounds, it's a little harder to digest because an enzyme needs to be present. Chickens are much more adapted to digest these things compared to humans. If we eat raw beans, we get sick. Well, they shouldn't eat raw beans anyway, but if we eat like the grains they're eating, the hard grains, we can't really digest them. We're not designed for that. Chickens are. So the phosphorus, what is it doing? Phosphorus it mobilizes calcium. So it instigates the metabolic process of calcium mobilization. It's like, I have it written down here, it's the team player that helps calcium do its job properly. So phosphorus, if it's not present in the diet, it can't do its job. It's not going to get that calcium transported to the structures it needs to go to the bones or to the shell. Too much phosphorus in a diet, isn't that a great word? Phosphorus. Too much phosphorus in a diet, because it interacts with calcium, if there's too much present, it binds to the calcium in the stomach, in the chicken's gut, so it's not being absorbed. Is that an issue to worry about? Not really, because it's going to be, if you're feeding a chicken a commercial feed, that feed is scrutinized and it's going to be mixed properly, and there's a lot of things that are going to be in the proper balance. Well, they should all be in the proper balance, like the nutrients, the essential nutrients are going to be in the proper balance, and they're going to be listed on the feed for the animal. So phosphorus for chicken, I think it's like 2 to 1, 2 calcium to 1 phosphorus is usually what, I think that's the ratio of calcium to phosphorus for healthy transport and mobilization metabolically. Questions? Anything? Think of some good question. I like having questions. Nobody's asking questions.
Yeah,
Nobody's
the
here.
feed, if it says layer feed, then that particularly means for laying age birds, and so the food should contain the necessary ingredients for, successful
Ladies and
egg
gentlemen,
production.
we actually make our own feed. It's a cute little one. See that, my little dinosaur? I made that up. Oh, no, she made that
No,
up.
I did.
So why am I telling you that? To sell you feed? Well, if you want a high quality feed, for sure. But the reason I'm telling you that is because, we did a lot of extensive research on feed and nutrients. And
Yeah, it's the same mix that we feed our own silkies, layer chickens, and ducks.
yeah, but you learn a lot. You learn about the nutrition chemistry, which is extremely complex. By no means am I the authority on chicken feed nutrition chemistry at all. But it is extremely complex, very fascinating, and all of it serves a purpose cellularly. But again, because it is very complex, you could spend, and people do spend many, many, many years learning about this. So phosphorus, in conclusion, it's working as a catalyst or to help mobilize the calcium from bones, from the bloodstream, and getting to construct the egg, although phosphorus is not part of the eggshell. The eggshell is 95, 97% calcium carbonate with some other trace minerals. Interesting stuff. Okay. So phosphorus works with calcium to form hydroxyapatite, the mineral matrix of the bone in the eggshell. The ideal ratio we went over, 2 to 1. Not that you're too excited by that, but it's interesting to know about. Feed sources, again, very high phosphorus content, like animals out in the field eating the bugs, okay? They're eating these animal proteins, okay? They're getting that compound. Plant, not so much, but it is there, but it's not so bioavailable. So it is there, but it's not bioavailable. Okay, cool. So I think that's incredible. I'm really fascinated by this stuff. I am.
Oh, are you going to do vitamin D?
Did I miss talking about vitamin D? Where's my notes?
Right there.
Oh yeah, vitamin D. This is cool. So, me and you and the chickens, we like vitamin D. Where do we get our vitamin D from?
The sun.
The sun, right. Our skin, just like us, they synthesize vitamin D from sunlight exposure, or more precisely, UVB light. So where is a chicken sunbathing? You don't really see them sunbathing too much. Well, actually, they have...
No, they do sunbathe.
They do.
Yeah, they'll lay on their side, they'll spread their wing out, and they'll, they enjoy being in the sun.
They do sunbathe. I meant like on a chair, but you're
Oh.
right. Yes. So
But yeah, they can just
they
stand
do
in the
get sun. Why? Because they're synthesizing vitamin D. There's exposure on the neck, there's exposure underneath the feathers, and actually the light will penetrate the feather and the coat. So they do synthesize vitamin D in the summer. In the winter months, not so much. So hopefully you're supplementing it in their feed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it should be listed on the feed. Vitamin D present in a commercial feed should be about, I think, like 4 to 7,000 IUs per pound. Is that right? 4 to 6,000 IUs per pound.
3 to 5,000. But the chicken's simply going out into the sunlight, for like humans, 15 to 13 minutes.
Yeah.
Minimum a day will get them the vitamin D.
So why is vitamin D important though for the eggs? Because the vitamin D enables calcium absorption in the intestines. And it helps transport calcium to the eggshell gland. And without it, hens can't use the dietary calcium. So vitamin D, and just like us, we use vitamin D2 in a similar fashion. Plus, it has a bunch of other antioxidant and health benefits. So get your sunlight. Don't listen to the people telling you not to stand in the sun. I'm not a doctor, but I highly advise sunlight exposure. So yeah, the vitamin D helps enable the calcium absorption in the intestines in your chicken so they can produce their eggs and be happy, healthy little critters. Okay? So they synthesize sunlight. I was looking into this. This is an aside. I was wondering about artificial lights, if it's necessary to put in the UVB lights. The answer is no. They will be getting enough sunlight even in the winter months.
And we're not talking about hours of light for them to keep up their egg laying.
No.
This is strictly vitamin D absorption
Production,
as a component to the actual egg making.
It's an aside, not about the egg laying, not about time. Just the vitamin D. Do they need a UVB light? Is that beneficial? It's not necessary. They're going to be getting enough vitamin synthesis even from the low sun exposure. It's best to supplement the diet. Anyway, these chickens naturally, if there's no light, there's no light, and they're not going to be laying. So if you're supplementing light, supplement the vitamin D. Okay, was that it? Magnesium and trace minerals. Magnesium helps regulate calcium metabolism, but you don't want to hear about that. It's getting kind of boring at this point. This is important. Protein.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead? You have the energy.
I have the energy. So protein, what is a protein function? So an egg, of course, isn't just a shell. There's a couple other components to it. I'm not going to talk about the interior, but I'm going to talk about the structure. We also have a membrane, right? A membrane. And
right inside the eggshell.
That little rubbery part.
That's holding the...
When you hard boil them, you tear the egg apart trying to peel it. Man, do I hate that. But that's the membrane, and that's made of protein, particularly keratin and collagen. Oh, I bet that's good for your skin.
Probably.
I should start eating chicken eggs membranes. Remember, it's hard to get to, so I guess I can't eat them. So it's made of keratin, collagen, and some glycoproteins. And what happens with the chicken egg membrane is the proteins are woven into a structural like fiber lattice, making it very strong. That's why you ever try tearing them? You know how they're kind of tough. It's because they're made of a sort of a lattice. Mother Nature is incredible. It is incredible, and it's an exquisite engineer. It really is. So if you look at that under a microscope, I think you'll be fascinated. I should have brought a sample. So the part of the egg is the membrane. It's protective coating inside the egg. It separates the chick with the air sac, right? Is that not right?
No, the air cell. So like when you crack an egg open and you dump the contents out, you can see the membrane stuck to the interior of the eggshell. It's not the air cell is a little bit different of an area. What were you saying?
I forget. I don't even know. It's hard to follow. My mouth is running at full speed.
Okay, sorry. I mean, I was just checking to make sure I understood you correctly.
So why am I talking about protein and the membrane? Well, because the membrane is made of protein, and a couple things I've talked about before are two essential amino acids, methionine and lysine. They're going to be listed on a manufactured chicken feed. Why are they listed? Why do you want to know what they are? Because the methionine and the lysine are what's called limiting amino acids. They're limiting amino acids, meaning they limit the use of the other amino acids. You have all these other amino acids that may be meeting the needs of the chicken. But if they don't have the appropriate amount of the methionine and the lysine, then they may not be able to use the other amino acids, which are the building blocks of all those proteins. So we want to make sure that that's present in the diet. Again, if you're using a commercial feed, it'll be listed on the guaranteed analysis. That little label on the back will tell you how much of those amino acids are present. And they're listed there because they're that important for the poultry.
Yeah, they are pretty important, and they do affect as the bird is growing from a chick to an adult, it's going to affect their form, their structure, the whole bird structure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm talking the whole time.
Yeah, you're doing
Yay. All right, so last couple things which are pretty intuitive. Water quality. You want to have clean water, and importantly, you don't want to have a lot of sodium present in the water. That shouldn't be an issue for most people. Sometimes it is. Some people do have salt water or saltier form of sodium-rich water.
Or like sulfate or iron. You want to watch the levels.
Yeah, particularly the iron.
Yeah.
For calcium absorption, it's not good. And environmental stressors. So water, obviously, clean and free of sodium. And the environmental stressors. Environmental stressors, like we always talk about, predators, change of environment, sudden loud noises, intermediate interruptions, things that are changing in their environment, disrupts their environment, will become a stressor. And the stressor is going to do a couple things. It's going to impact their feeding habits. And just like when a human is stressed, okay, weaken their immune system, compromise the integrity of their egg production, their egg
things
output.
that aren't necessarily as important to the survival of the creature get disrupted when there's a high stress involved, and so you'll see a overall performance change.
And can impact nutrient absorption, believe it or not. So, the environmental stressors. Hopefully your chicken's living in a happy little patch and they're not stressed out. And finally, I think that about closes it up for all this wonderful egg stuff. I want to give you a couple of really cool egg facts along with that stuff. So I told you this, how many pores, if you look real close at an eggshell, you see little tiny holes. You know how many little holes are on there? I told you.
You did tell me, I don't remember. And probably depends on the egg size.
Well, I'm going to get an egg, and she's going to get an egg, and we'll each count.
No thanks.
Approximately 7,000 pores. So an egg is very porous. Why is the egg porous? It needs to breathe, right? Can't have it sealed. And
the humidity level around so the chick, an egg is meant to grow a baby, a chick. So the humidity level will affect the growth rate. It'll affect the air cell in particular as the embryo is developing. Once they get to a certain point in their development stage, it's important for that air cell to get larger when they're getting closer to hatching, and the amount of humidity will affect the size of that air cell, which can change really quickly with the humidity level. So that's interesting. And then also, if the humidity is too high around the egg because it's porous, then that shell the interior of the shell has a bunch of fluid, and a chick getting ready to hatch could actually drown if the humidity level outside near the shell is too high.
Yep. Very good. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Last thing, an egg white. So I always wondered about this. So an egg white is about 90% water. It's a big thing of water.
Yeah.
So when making an egg, I'm making a water egg. It's 10% protein, 90% water. It also contains enzyme to prevent infection while the little critter's growing. And if you didn't know, there's a thing called the bloom. We talk about this, the bloom. There's a coating on the egg, or it's also called a cuticle. Coats the egg. It's porous.
It's coated as it's being laid.
It's coated. It's a coating on the egg that, like she said, is applied as the egg's being laid. And it's porous enough that there can be vapor exchange, air, okay? So you can have evaporation out of the egg. However, what's ingenious about the structure of the bloom is that larger structures like bacteria cannot pass through it to get into the egg to cause infection or breakdown or have a rotted egg. So if you wash an egg and let it sit out, and you keep an egg unwashed, the washed egg will go bad pretty quick.
Because that bloom is now compromised and potentially completely gone.
Yeah.
So bacteria and such can get through.
So that's that. All right.
Okay.
Well, nobody came in tonight, but that's okay. So hopefully people stop in later. If you did, thanks for coming by. Leave a question or comment down in the comments section. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, thanks for watching. If you guys want to have heads up for our next one, our next video is coming up, subscribe and yeah, like our video.
And we're hatching quail chicks soon.
Yes.
All right, bye people.
Bye.
Okay.